tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They were hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lyon's gone, New South Wales are 9 down! Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! Oh, I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the longest-running cricket podcast in Australia. I'm Manners, here to wrap up day 4 from Adelaide. And what a performance, Australia on the verge of retaining the Ashes. And this afternoon, it was the show was stolen by two of Australia's greats, Pat Cummins with 3 wickets at the top, and then Nathan Lyon in the last hour of play when England had mounted a slight little fight back. Nathan Lyon came in with 3 superb wickets, 3 of the best off-spinning wickets you can imagine. Well, apart from Harry Brook, who was an absolute shit shot, but the ball to get Stokes and then the arm ball to get Crawley, absolutely superb. So Australia have taken full control of the test match today, and they are careering towards a series victory. Just superb stuff today from Australia. They toiled manfully all afternoon. England, through a couple of good partnerships, Crawley batted well with Root and then with Brook. It looked just maybe, there could be a miracle, a world record chase for these Baz ballers. But of course, it wasn't to be. And we saw some real class from Australia. Great in the field, great with the ball. The catch from Labuschagne to take Ollie Pope rivaled the catch from Steve Smith last week at the Gabba. Probably not quite as good, but Australia have been at their best in this match. And when you consider that right throughout this series, Australia have been missing, at different times, Cummins, Hazelwood, Smith, Lyon, and yet they've dominated. Embarrassing for England, embarrassing for McCullum, embarrassing for Stokes. And look, before we get into a bit more of a detailed wrap, I just want to call out the English management. The last 3 days in Adelaide, they've put 3 assistant coaches up to do the press conferences. Neither of their players nor Brendan McCullum will face the music, and to me that's just ridiculous. That's cowardly. Like they've come out here with all this bravado, all this arrogance, all this pompous English bullshit, and then they can't even face the music. It's really embarrassing. And Jeetan Patel was in the press conference yesterday and said some things about this series not mattering that much, and then Fox Cricket have found quotes of Brendan McCullum saying this is the series of their lives. So this is full fucking disintegration. This is every dream I had coming true this series. They're turning on each other, they're cricket shit, they're embarrassing themselves, and now they won't even face the media. How fantastic. Let's wrap up today's play. Australia were all out for 349. That set England a world record score of 435 to win the match. And at stumps, they are 6 for 207. They need a further 228 to win, with Jacks and Smith not out. And Australia started the day 4 for 271, and they lost 6 for 78 today. So I was disappointed with that. And in the end, we actually lost 6 for 38, a real collapse at the end there. I was disappointed. Look, 435 is a ton of runs, but I thought Australia could have stayed out there a bit longer, could have set the target above 500, really rubbed England's nose in it, really grind them down, really keep them out there. But some quick wickets today, and just frustrating. Players like Inglis didn't get going. The tail went really quickly. Shane Carey didn't get to a century, or Travis Head didn't get to a double ton. I mean, a great performance from Australia, but would have been nice if they'd batted probably into the afternoon a little bit longer, in the end getting out just before the lunch break. Travis Head was the first to go today, out for a wonderful 170 off 219 balls. He was caught in the outfield, pulling off tongue, top edge, and that broke a 162-run partnership between him and Alex Carey. So Travis Head just missed out on beating his highest test score, which is 175, which he scored at the same venue. A superb innings from Head, and he's had a dream series. This Ashes has his mark all over it. I said it yesterday, and I've said it before. Obviously, that innings in Perth turning the tide, but then again, in this innings, 170 out of 349, dominant stuff from the Crow Eater. So then Carey was caught around the corner for 72 off Stokes. Disappointing dismissal. You can't, as I said, you can't criticize his output in this game, but Stokes moved the fielder there, and then basically Carey seemed like he just forgot the fielder was there and just guided it around the corner. So he was out for 72. I think he had a century, beckoning there, and he could have been the first Australian wicketkeeper to ever score twin centuries in a test match. Instead, though, he does have the record, and I can't believe this with, you think of Gilchrist in particular, but all the keepers Australia have had. No keeper until this test match for Australia has ever scored 100 and a 50 in the same test. So brilliant stuff. At this stage, so Australia was 6 for 329, a lead of 414, and I was disappointed here with Inglis. He was out caught behind for 10 off tongue. And I thought there was a huge opportunity here for Inglis to make some pretty easy runs. The English attack are tired. It's a good pitch. Come out, bash it around. But another unconvincing innings, an unconvincing dismissal. And, apart from Josh Inglis's test debut where he made a century in Sri Lanka on a road, everyone made runs there. He hasn't actually contributed much with the bat at test level. So I think Inglis's spot in the test team will come under the microscope heading into the next test match. If you can't, he's come in a few good positions where it just needs him to make a solid contribution. I thought it was cherry ripe for a nice little 50 not out, and just give the selectors one less thing to worry about. But instead of failure, a good bowling by Tongue. He's been impressive in this test match, and that had Australia 7 for 335. Then Carr got 2 in 2 to have Cummins and Lyon, and Boland was the last man out not long after, and Australia was all out for 349. As I said, losing 6 for 38 at the end there, and giving England just the faintest sniff, just the not even a sniff, like a whiff, the thought of a wind has just floated down the breeze, and you've just caught just a little tiny bit of it, because it's a world record chase, but they had plenty of time. It's a flat pitch. They love chasing. So, they just opened the door a little bit. But, Australia's main contributors in that innings, obviously Head's 170, Carey 72, and Khawaja's 40. So Australia will have to think about their batting order for the next test match. Khawaja's made a pretty good case to be included for the rest of the series, maybe in the middle order. What about Inglis? What about Green? What about Webster? So still some questions to answer for Australia going into the Boxing Day test. But then England started. They had just a little bit of time to bat before lunch, and Duckett was caught at second slip for 4 off the bowling of Pat Cummins. Marnus with the catch. England were 1 for 4. And, it's been a horror show for England's openers in this series. If it's not Stark getting you, it's Cummins. Duckett just can't leave the ball alone on off stump, doesn't move his feet. He's set up to edge the ball to slips in these conditions. Bit different playing in England where the ball doesn't bounce as much. He can get over the top of it, but it's not going to work here, and he's been found out again. And in the series so far, he's made 97 runs with a top score of 29. So an abysmal series for Duckett so far. England at lunch were 1 for 5. And then after lunch, Pope and Crawley started pretty well, negotiated a bit of time, and then Marnus Labuschagne took an absolute screamer off Pope. Cummins was the bowler. Marnus diving to his left in front of first slip, taking a one-handed, very similar to the Smith catch last week at the Gabba, except the difference was this keeper wasn't standing up to the stumps and there was no first slip. in position for Smith. But great catch from Marnus. And, Australia's catching has been superb this series. They've taken some absolute screamers. And in the past, their fielding's been a bit hit and miss, but they've really turned it on this series. And the one thing you have to say about Marnus, he does make things happen in the field. We've seen it before with runouts, already a couple of superb catches this Ashes. So, again, just, Pope didn't look convincing at all. Pope looks terrible. But just when you think England are getting any kind of rhythm, Australia will do something like that. And great stuff from Marnus. So then, though, Crawley, who was batting very well, and Root got to tee, and England were 2 for 106 at tee. And you have to say, good batting conditions, really good pitch. I mean, this is a good wicket that Adelaide, Damien Hoff, has turned out. You can still make runs on it. There's turn there for Lyon. There's a little bit of seam movement if you hit the wobble seam in the right way. So this pitch has it all, runs and the ball's coming onto the bat. So it's a good pitch. After tee, Root survived a Travis Head LBW. Interesting change by Cummins just to bowl Head. So I think what's happened is Australia are behind in the over rates, and we saw it late in the day. So Cummins has tried to sneak a few head overs in when he thinks they can get away without too much damage, just before breaks, just after breaks, before stumps, because Australia don't want to be too far behind the over rates and get pinged World Test Championship points. So just after tee, I think Head was trying to get through some overs. Root padded up and was given not out, was reviewed, was umpire's call, so Root survived. But then in the second over after tee, Root was out, caught behind, stuck on the crease. That made the score 3 for 109, and Root was out for 39 off 63 deliveries. Very similar to the first innings. Cummins just pinning Root on the crease with really impressive bowling, and then Root just playing from the crease, away from his body, edged it through, and he was out, caught behind. And that ended a 78-run partnership, and England 3 for 109. That's the 13th time in Test cricket Root's been dismissed by Cummins, second time in the match. One thing I did mention as well, pretty early on in the innings, Mitchell Starc got warned twice for running on the pitch. And so that means if he gets warned again, he won't be able to bowl in this inning. So that was hovering around because they didn't bowl Starc too much. I wonder if Cummins is just worried about him getting ruled out of the attack, especially if it happens early on. That'd be a big boost for England because they know, okay, well, we can just sit on other bowlers and make them use the part-timers. But then a good partnership between Brook and Crawley, and this was one of the best moments, probably the whole series for England. Brook and Crawley looking confident. We all know how damaging Brook can be when he gets going. And, if England could if England could have pushed the game into the fifth day, only 3 wickets down with, say, 250 needed for a victory, 7 wickets in hand, 250 to win, it's got a bit of interest there. Maybe England have, as I said, just a whiff of hope, just, when you catch the sort of whiff of a bakery on the horizon or something, just that, nothing more than that. But then we saw some all-time, brainless cricket from Harry Brook. You just can't concentrate. They just got no gumption, no, fiber, no metal, because he started reverse sweeping Head. He started reverse sweeping Lyon. He just decided, I'm going to just reverse sweep everything. And then Nathan Lyon bowled Brook for 30. He went to reverse sweep Lyon, missed it, spun enough to hit Brook's leg stump, actually, if he didn't switch around. But so that had England 4 for 177, broke a 68-run partnership, and opened the door for Australia with, about half an hour, 40 minutes to go in the day. And until then, as I said, Crawley and Brook looked really solid. So then that brought Stokes to the crease. And as an old off-spinner myself, awful one, 2 classic off-spinners dismissal. Line around the wicket to Ben Stokes, drifting in towards Stokes' leg stump, drawing him down that line. Then it turned away and hit a Stokes off stump, and Stokes was bowled for 5. That had England 5 for 189. And that was heartbreaking for England fans, and you could see how happy the Australians were because we know what Stokes can do in a run chase. He can be really annoying, and it wasn't to be this time. All-time great stuff from Nathan Lyon. Just when Australia needed someone to break the game open, it was the GOAT. So England 5 for 189. And then next over, Lyon got Crawley stumped with an arm ball. This was beautiful, beautiful bowling. Just drew Crawley outside off stump with the drift. The ball just went straight on with the arm. He missed the drive, and Carey whipped the bails off, and Crawley was out for 85. And Lyon had 3 for 8 in that spell, and England was 6 down and facing maybe defeat today, but they did get through to stumps, but certainly defeat tomorrow morning. Brilliant, brilliant stuff from Nathan Lyon. Poor shot from Crawley, though. If you look on the replay, he's really tried to play that ball from line way too square, missed it by a long way, and Carey was awake to it. And the match was turned on its head. If there was any, as I said, faint little hope, it was all gone. Now, tomorrow, there's a bit of rain around, so maybe that's England's only hope of salvaging a draw. Even if they do that, the Ashes are still retained, so it'll still be a great day for Australia. And what crowds have turned out for this Ashes so far? Today, 44,152 people turned out. It's now over 200, almost 203,000 have been to this test match, and that is a record for any test at the Adelaide Oval. And I said before the summer, this is going to be the biggest summer ever, and TV ratings, crowds have been through the roof. And, I hope England's pathetic performance doesn't dampen the enthusiasm of crowds for Boxing Day in Sydney. That's the great thing about England coming out here. It is fun just watching us hammer them. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's a contest or not. Just absolutely hammer them is still fun. Like, just watching them be embarrassed, watching them go home a wreck. It's fun to watch. It's like a sport for Australians. So I guess that's it for my wrap of day 4 from the Adelaide Oval. Let's just bring up the bowling figures for today because, Australia were superb this afternoon. Pat Cummins, 10 overs, 3 for 24. What a return to the team he has made. 3 big wickets today, knocking over the top order, Duckett, Pope and Root. And I did hear a few whispers from out of the camp. They've said it. Some of the players have said it in interviews, but I think he found it pretty tough to back up after that first innings. So I just wonder if Cummins is going to play Boxing Day, or maybe he'll need a bit of a break and maybe comes back for the Sydney Test. But 3 for 24 for him. Stark, none for 35. Boland, none for 23, keeping the pressure on. And then Nathan Lyon, 3 for 64 off 18 overs. Superb performance at his beloved Adelaide Oval, and now 5 wickets for the game after being dropped for the last Test match. Well, yeah, look, I don't think you need to hear me dance on the Bazballer's grave anymore. We'll save that for tomorrow when this Test match is over. But I just wonder if they've actually sent, if Baz McCullum will actually front the media and answer some of these questions. What he likes to do is just front the English media that are quite soft on him and not face the whole media pack. So we'll just see if McCullum's ready to face the music. But this whole Bazball thing, I called it in 2023 was a fraud, and it's been exposed here. So these Bazballers have nothing. They have shown nothing. And Australia on the verge of going 3-0 up in the Ashes. What a day for Head, 170, Carey 72, and then Cummins and Lyon 3 wickets each. So don't forget, rate and review the podcast, like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We're selling great merchandise in the show notes. You can get T-shirts. Just search Cricket Unfiltered merchandise. There's a particular T-shirt I love that has Baz and Stokes in an unemployment line. So that could actually be a real photo soon, especially McCullum might be looking for a job. But yeah, I'm Manners. You've been listening to the longest running cricket podcast in Australia, and I'll be back after day 5.